Hi everyone, I'm Simon Ayton from Roland in Sydney, and I'm here with Allans Billy Hyde to show you the new TD30KV, which is our new flagship V-drums kit. We call it the V-stage kit because obviously it's going to look awesome on stage. You can customize the shell wraps, you've got full-size cymbals, you've got big toms, 2 floor toms. I'll go into some of the details of the bits and pieces that come with this kit. So this is the TD30KV. There's 2 versions of this kit. This is obviously the flagship kit, and there's a smaller kit called the TD30K, which replaces the TD12 effectively. So for both versions of the top-of-the-range kits, the module is the same, but the components are a bit different. So you can choose which model you want depending on what size kit you need. So if you're using it on stage, maybe you're in a church and you're used to using acoustic drums normally, this is the perfect kit because it's obviously silent as far as stage level goes, so you don't have problems with, you know, cymbal wash coming into the microphones of the singers and so forth. You've got control of the sound, but you've also got a brilliant sound engine here where you can play back audio and do all sorts of cool things, which I'm going to show you through now. So for starters, looking at the kit, you could be easily excused for thinking it looks the same as the TD20. Well, actually the only thing that's the same as the TD20 kit that it's replacing is the rack and the kick drum. All the new pads and cymbals, sound engine and hi-hat are newly designed. So as far as the details of those, the pads have got new triggers built into them now, so you have much better isolation between the surface and the rim. Same thing on the snare. You've also got new cymbals which have this black metallic finish, and a 15-inch ride cymbal with a 3-way trigger, dual triggering on the cymbals. You can assign these cymbals to anything you want. They could be a splash cymbal, chinas, crashes, gongs, hi-hats even. And if you do assign one of these to a hi-hat, you can operate it with your left foot. So that's pretty cool as well. Hi-hat is completely new as well. So this is called the VH13MG. It's got this metallic grey sort of finish. But what's new about it is the actual trigger mechanism. It's a completely new full range digital motion trigger inside here, which gives you everything from completely closed, slightly ajar, more, completely open. So you can do things where you're playing a groove where it's slightly ajar. So and if I press down, I can actually even change the pitch, which is pretty cool. So it's very responsive, feels like an acoustic cymbal to play. You forget very quickly that you're playing actually an electronic trigger pad. Snare, you'll notice it sounds significantly better than anything else on the market, and even better than the flagship previous TD20 kit. Just to give you an idea, I'll just pick this stage kit here, which is kit number 10. You can see that every time I hit the snare, it makes a slightly different sound. That's a good thing. You can actually hear the difference between my left hand and my right hand, just like you would on an acoustic instrument. We want that to happen because you can put more expression into the drum. So I can play shallow rim shots and then move through to the center of the drum and hear a fatter sound. So this is something that's unique to V-drums. It's this ability to judge where exactly on the head you're hitting, which is a fantastic thing. It also works on the toms, so I can do timbali type sounds rather than my normal tom sounds. If I play near the edge, I get more of a timbali sound. Versus. So it's a subtle thing, but to a player, it makes all the difference because it feels responsive to play. Pretty cool, hey? Also, on the ride cymbal here, we have our bell, the bow, and the edge. And you'll hear when I hit the edge, instead of just triggering a normal cymbal sound, it's aware that I'm playing a roll on the edge of the cymbal, and it will actually roll off the attack, so it's a smooth sound. For example, here. Normally on electronic kits, other electronic kits, when you play a swell on a cymbal, it sounds like this. Whereas when you play it on ours, you can play it with expression because it's aware of exactly the distance between the notes you're playing, where you're actually playing it on the cymbal, and it knows to roll off the attack and make it sound much more like a proper acoustic cymbal. Same thing on the hi-hats as well. You can even choke the cymbals. You can choke the hi-hat as well. So I'm not using my foot. I'm actually just using my fingers here to grip the outside of the cymbal, so you can do as the sort of bebop drummers would be doing if they were playing jazz. So it's incredibly responsive kit to play. Even the bass drum, if I hit it softly, you can hear the mallet just touching the actual head. As I hit it harder, you hear the drum change in sound. For a much more snappier sound, hit it really hard and you hear a snappy sound. It also is affected differently by the types of sticks you play and also the type of beater you use. So if you use a hard plastic beater, you get much more attack. If you use a felt beater, it's going to have a softer sound. It's aware of how you're playing the kit, so it responds accordingly. You can also even use brushes on this kit as well. It has a mode that lets you turn it to sweep sensing, so it's aware that you're playing with brushes, and you can do all the things you would normally do with brushes on your kit, which is pretty fantastic. So here's an example of the piccolo snare from kit number 47 on the TD30 module. Listen to the range of sounds I can get out of the snare drum. All of this is possible due to this supernatural technology. Supernatural, what is it? Well, basically, it's a thing that allows us to do what we call behavior modeling. So behavior, how I play the kit, how the sounds that come back from the kit sound are all to do with how I play it, where I hit the drum, how hard I hit. Sustain on the cymbals is all determined by how I play it. That's behavior modeling. So that's the simple way of understanding it. Supernatural basically makes things feel better, sound better, and become more responsive as an instrument to play. All of this is done from the brain here, which is the TD30 brain, which you can also buy separately if you want to. Start with a basic kit and build your way up. You can start with just the brain. All of our pads and triggers connect to this, including acoustic triggers, so you can mic up effectively and also trigger your acoustic kit on stage and use the brain sounds that are inside the TD30 for sound reinforcement live. So you could have a little 18-inch acoustic bass drum on stage using our RT10 triggers, so the RT10K trigger, put that on the bass drum, mic that up, you'll have your acoustic bass drum sound and also your electronic bass drum sound if you want it from here, like an 808 bass drum, for example, or even something like a 24-inch oak bass drum, and combine the two sounds and have like sound reinforcement for your acoustic kit, which is pretty cool. The sound engine here has a mixer on the front panel, so I can adjust my levels up and down while I'm playing. For example, if I take a kit like this, I've got a kit in here which has got fantastic effects happening in there. Let me just find where this kit is. Overheads. So here's the dry kit. If I turn up some of the overheads here on the mixer, so this is the microphone recording of the kit. Dry. So this is a completely new thing in here as well that works together with the supernatural to actually give you realistic sounding drums, not just using an artificial reverb unit, which most other manufacturers do, but actually you've got the access to the overhead microphone sound, which is a pretty cool thing. I'll just give you more of an example of that. I'll go in here to one of the kits, which has an enormous sounding reverb, and what that is actually using the overhead microphones, using a room simulator to simulate the sort of room that I want the drums to sound like they're in, and also an artificial reverb to do things like ping-pong delays and gated reverbs, which are a crucial part of any drum sound if you want to capture sounds from the 80s, because they were used a lot in the studio. So here's the dry kit without any overheads. Okay, as I turn up the room sound, I'm hearing the overheads, the ambience, and the effects. Dry. Effects. Because you have the mixer here right next to you, you can adjust all of these things on the fly. So if you start playing with the band and you realize your kick and snare are too quiet, just reach over here and turn them up. You've got complete control right throughout the gig. Also completely new in the sound engine now, the TD30, is a song player. So this allows me to load audio from a USB stick, plug it straight into the back of the module, press play, and then play along with the track. it could be just a click that I'm hearing on stage and the rest of the audience and the band aren't hearing, or it could be a backing track. So instead of playing something, maybe the keyboard player playing the backing tracks that you're playing along with at a particular gig, the drummer can have control of it, which is how it should be. The drummer is in control of the time and can also drive the show from here. So you just put your WAV or your MP3 files on a USB stick, standard USB stick, Mac or PC, plug it into the back, and you've got player built in on here. You can also change the tempo of that audio, so you can play along with it and learn a drum part. And you can also set a loop as well, so it goes round and round in circles. So very handy. There's also a really comprehensive sequencer built in here, where you can plug a keyboard, for example, a MIDI keyboard in the MIDI input on the back of the module, play some keyboard parts, record them, and then assign them to the drums. So there are some examples in here of the sort of things you can do. If I just go in and choose one of them, you see a little play logo that usually says tap on the front that shows you that it has a sequencer attached to it. So this is a really cool one here. This is called Super Loop. So you can hear there, when I hit the edge of the floor tom here, it's triggering a pattern. This is also a hi-hat as well, so this is operated by my left foot. And on here I have chords and melodies that I can also play. I can set it to be velocity sensitive as well, so it only goes off when I hit it at a certain velocity. I can assign any of the drums to that. And on my bass drum here, I've got a bass part. That's probably the tightest you'll ever hear a bass player playing with a drummer because it's being triggered from my bass drum. So I can slow the tempo and it will follow whatever it is that I'm playing. So it's actually a cool practice tool because it's much more fun than just playing along to a metronome that's built into the drum module. You also have a metronome in here that's fully programmable as well. You can edit the drum sounds to the nth degree. You can even adjust the microphone positioning on the drums as well. For example, I've got a hi-hat sound here. If I go into the editing section and I select my hi-hat, for starters I can adjust the size of the hi-hat. So at the moment it's set to be a 17-inch hi-hat, but I can set it to be 6-inch on top and 40 inches on the outside, and then I can play that as part of a pattern. Pretty cool. So you don't have to go that extreme. You might want to have 12-inch hi-hat on top that cuts through the mix a bit better in a chorus and have a 14 on the outside for the verses. So you can do that sort of stuff. You can also adjust the microphone positioning as well. So here's my standard hi-hat sound with the microphone positioned about here. I can actually use the dial on the front here and change the microphone position. So here's my standard miking. Now it's mic'd from above. So that's exactly what an engineer would do in the studio. Usually if you can't get the sound happening in the studio, you move the mic position as the first thing. The second thing is change the instrument and choose a different hi-hat, which you can also do in here. You've got lots of different sounds built in, over 1,000 sounds built into the brain. If that's not working, usually you change the drummer. I'm not going to do that today. We're just going to concentrate on editing the sounds in here. Bass drum, for example. If I go and choose one of the basic kits, I'll choose the number 1 kit, which is just our standard drum kit. And here's our dry bass drum sound. Okay, so it's a typically close mic'd bass drum sound. If I get into the edit here, I'm able to adjust not just the pitch of the drum, which you can do on a lot of sound engines these days in keyboards and drum machines, but I can actually adjust the microphone positioning, which is not possible on anything else on the market. That's what makes our supernatural technology and in the V-drum sound engines so unique. So here we've got microphone position on the outside. If I move the microphone position to the inside, I get a much more tubbier, dull, sort of funky sound. As I move to the outside, I get a more of a reverberant bass drum sound. I can change the mic size, so from like a 57 to a D112 egg microphone size as well. And I can even turn up what's called kit resonance. So this allows the toms to vibrate in sympathy with the bass drum. Now we've tried to get rid of this for years, but now we want it back because it makes the kit sound like it's one instrument instead of separately mic'd components. So for example, no tom resonance, but as I turn it up, you'll hear the toms come to life. So now if I'm trying to get like a John Bonham sort of sound, you get a much more of lively sort of bass drum sound. So this is before, without it. And then with some resonance. Okay, so sounds much more like a drum kit, like a drummer playing combination of instruments, not just separately mic components. We can go much further than that though. We can also add things like shakers and tambourines. You can even add a cowbell to the hi-hat if you want. So we can come in here and we can choose a cowbell sound. So now when I play on the downbeat, I'm playing on the mouth of the cowbell. You hear on top, I'm hearing the top of the cowbell. And on the outside, I'm hearing the mouth. I can turn them on or off, adjust the levels up and down. Heaps of power. You can do this in both versions of the TD30, so the TD30K kit and also the TD30KV, because the sound engine is the same across both kits. Some other cool things you've got as well in the TD30 sound module is separate outputs. So if you're using it on stage, the sound engineer can have kick on a separate channel, snare on a separate channel, toms and cymbals can be grouped together if you want. You've got 10 outputs to use on the back of the module that can be freely assigned to anything. Even anything that's coming in the audio input, either via USB or via the mix-in, can also be sent out of any of those outputs as well, so you can create your own mix just for you on stage as the drummer. We've got also extra trigger inputs, 4 of them on the module ready to go for adding extra cymbals and bass drums. You can use double bass drum pedals on all of our kits. If you'd rather have 2 separate bass drum triggers, you can do that. Just grab yourself a separate Roland trigger. Anything from the KD7 up will work. Plug it straight in the back, put another bass drum pedal on it, and you can have 2 separate bass drums. Then you can tune them separately. So that's also possible with the V-Drums kit. All the rack sizes are the same on all of our kits, so all of the cymbal arms and clamps work on all of the kits across the range, which is cool to know. So it's like Lego. You can just buy a basic system and then build as you go. So I hope that's given you a good overview of the TD30 system, but I recommend you go into the store, go into an Allan Billy Hyde store, sit down on the kit, have a play, or buy online.